The radar tone screamed in his helmet, "Lock acquired." The two F-22 Raptors streaked through the thin air, their weapons systems primed, targeting the lone aircraft flying just miles ahead. From the lead pilot's cockpit, the silhouette was unmistakable, a foreign jet that had crossed into restricted airspace. Protocol was simple: challenge, shadow, and if the threat escalated, eliminate. He steadied his breath, finger resting near the trigger. But then came the radio crackle. A voice, calm yet strained, filled the channel. "Call sign Phoenix 1 requesting acknowledgement." His heart froze. That name, that call sign, he knew it. Memories rushed back like a flood. Dusty training fields, laughter around campfires, the sound of someone who believed in him before he even believed in himself. The woman flying that jet was no stranger, no enemy. She was her. Captain Elena. Phoenix, Marquez had once been the beating heart of the squadron. Known for her iron will and unshakable courage, she had inspired everyone around her. But after an accident years ago, when her wingman didn't make it home, she disappeared from the Air Force, vanishing into silence. Rumors swirled. Some said she was too broken to fly again, others whispered that she chose exile because she could no longer bear the skies. Now, against all odds, she was here, back in the air, flying a jet no one had expected to see her in. Phoenix 1. The lead pilot's voice cracked over the comms, disbelief cutting through the static. "This is Raptor Lead. Is that really you?" There was a pause. Then a familiar, steady voice replied, "It's me. And if you fire, you're about to shoot down the wrong person." The second F-22 broke radio silence. "Lead, what's going on?" "Orders are clear. She's unauthorized in the zone." But the lead pilot couldn't move. He remembered the way Elena had once carried him through his lowest days in training, when failure seemed certain. She had been more than a mentor, she had been family. And now, the system saw her as nothing but a target. The next few minutes were chaos. Command demanded answers, his wingman pushed for a strike, and the jet Elena flew showed no official clearance codes. Yet her voice carried something that made him hesitate, not fear, not guilt, but truth. "I'm not your enemy," she said softly. "I intercepted intel. Something big is coming. If I didn't cut through this airspace, you'd never have known until it was too late." The lead pilot clenched his fists. If he trusted her, he risked his career, maybe even a court-martial. If he didn't, he'd betray the very person who had once taught him what loyalty meant. Then, on radar, more blips appeared, fast-moving, unknown signatures approaching the edge of U.S. airspace. "Hostile inbound," his wingman shouted. "Lead, we don't have time." And in that instant, everything shifted. Elena wasn't the threat, she was the warning. "Raptor Lead, decision." Command barked. He exhaled slowly. "Phoenix 1, you're on my wing." The silence that followed was deafening. His wingman stammered in shock, but there was no time to argue. The three jets streaked into the sky, forming a defensive line as the unknown aircraft approached. The battle that followed was brutal. Missiles cut through the air, flares lit the clouds, and the roar of engines shook the earth below. The two Raptors and Elena's jet fought side by side, just like old times. Every maneuver, every call, every split-second decision reminded him why she had been the squadron's heart. She wasn't just flying. She was leading, even when she wasn't supposed to. When the last hostile blip disappeared from radar, silence once again filled the comms. They had won, but not without cost. Fuel was low, nerves frayed, and the horizon glowed with the scars of battle. Back at base, everything was chaos, questions, accusations, and disbelief. Command demanded to know why he had broken protocol, why he hadn't fired when ordered. His career teetered on the edge of ruin. But then Elena stepped forward. She explained everything. The intercepted intel, the threat she uncovered, the risk she took because she knew no one else would believe her. Without her, the skies would have fallen silent under enemy fire. And in that tense room, where judgment hung heavy, something shifted. The generals who once doubted her, the officers who once whispered about her disappearance, they now saw her for what she had always been. A protector, a warrior, a legend. That night, as the sun dipped low, the lead pilot found her standing by the runway, helmet under her arm. "You knew I wouldn't pull the trigger," he said quietly. She smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the fading light. "I knew you'd remember who I was, not the file they kept, but the person who flew beside you." "Phoenix," he said, voice thick with emotion, "we need you back." Her gaze turned skyward, as if weighing the years of pain and loss. And then, with a breath that carried both sorrow and hope, she nodded. "Then let's make sure no one flies alone again." The story of that day spread far beyond their squadron. Not just about the battle or the breach of protocol, but about the bond that had stopped a war before it began. About how trust, loyalty, and courage could cut through the noise of command and fear. And in the years to come, whenever new recruits asked about call signs and legends, they were told of the time two Raptors locked onto a lone jet, only to break away when they heard one name. Phoenix 1, the pilot who refused to let the skies forget her. The base was quiet that night, too quiet for a squadron that had just returned from a battle that could have changed the course of everything. Captain Elena, Phoenix, Marquez walked alone along the runway, her helmet tucked beneath her arm, each step echoing with the weight of old ghosts. She thought she had left this life behind forever, yet here she was again, called back by fate, carrying a secret even command didn't yet understand. The lead Raptor pilot, Major Daniel Falcon Reeves, found her standing at the edge of the tarmac, looking up at the stars. He had been her student once, back when he was young and full of doubt. She had taught him how to trust the sky, how to hear the silence between the storms. Now, after everything, they stood as equals, but the air between them carried unspoken questions. "Phoenix," he said softly, "they're not going to forgive us for breaking protocol. You know that, right?" She turned, her eyes sharp but weary. "Let them hold their tribunals. The skies don't care about rules on paper. We did what needed to be done." Falcon studied her carefully. "There's more to this, isn't there? You didn't just stumble into restricted airspace. You came for a reason." She hesitated, then handed him a flash drive from her flight suit. It's why I risked everything. The hostiles we fought today, they weren't just probing defenses. They were bait, a distraction. Something far worse is coming. The next morning, the base roared with tension. Command summoned both Phoenix and Falcon for questioning, demanding explanations. The generals' voices were cold, clipped, pressing them on why Falcon disobeyed direct orders to fire. But before Phoenix could speak, Falcon stood tall. "If I had followed those orders, sir, I would have destroyed the very pilot who saved us. We're alive because of her intel. If we keep treating her like a liability, we're already defeated." The room fell silent. Eyes shifted from Falcon to Phoenix. The general's jaw tightened, then he finally gestured. "Let's see this so-called intel." When the data on the flash drive came to life on the screens, the room fell into hushed disbelief. Phoenix had intercepted encrypted communications between hostile squadrons, evidence of a coordinated strike planned weeks ahead. Their little skirmish had been nothing more than a rehearsal. "They're coming," Phoenix said firmly. "And not with just a handful of jets this time. They're bringing a storm." Command had no choice. She was reinstated, not as an afterthought, but as a critical leader for the operation to come. But the decision didn't silence the whispers among the pilots. Some respected her, remembering her as the legend who once guided them. Others distrusted her, resentful of her disappearance and questioning her loyalty. In the locker room, tension erupted. "You think you can just walk back in here after years of silence?" One pilot snarled at her. "We buried good people while you hid." Phoenix met his glare without flinching. "I didn't hide. I carried every name, every face, every scream of that mission with me. You think I wanted to come back? I came back because if I don't, none of you will survive what's coming." The room quieted. Even those who doubted her felt the truth in her words. Days later, the storm arrived. Radar lit up with dozens of inbound hostiles, faster, heavier, and deadlier than anything they had faced before. The air base scrambled every available jet. Falcon's voice echoed through comms as he formed the strike group, but it was Phoenix's calm, steady tone that cut through the chaos. "Listen to me," she commanded. "You fly with me, you fly as one. No one breaks formation. No one goes down alone. We end this together. The battle that followed was unlike anything they had trained for. Missiles streaked across the night, engines roared, and the sky became a furnace of fire and steel. Pilots screamed warnings, jets spun into evasive dives, and every second felt like an eternity. At the center of it all was Phoenix. Her jet cut through the chaos with precision, her voice anchoring the squadron like a beacon in the storm. She saved one pilot with a perfectly timed warning, pulled another from a death spiral, and when Falcon's Raptor took heavy damage, she dove into the fray to cover him, firing missiles that cleared his six just in time. For a moment, the squadron forgot their doubts. They remembered why her call sign had once been spoken like legend. Dash dash dash. The hostiles broke off, retreating into the night after heavy losses. The base roared with celebration when the squadron returned, but for Phoenix, it wasn't triumph she felt. It was resolve. Falcon walked up to her on the runway, his jet scorched but intact. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You saved us all out there." Again, she shook her head. "We saved each other. That's how it's supposed to be." Then, with the same calm fire that had once inspired a generation of pilots, she added, "This isn't the end, it's only the beginning, and if the storm comes again, we'll be ready." Dash dash dash. In the months that followed, recruits whispered her story in the hangars. Veterans spoke her name with reverence. She wasn't just the pilot who returned. She was the one who refused to let the skies belong to fear. And whenever Falcon was asked why he broke off his lock that day, he would only smile and say, "Because some call signs aren't just names. They're reminders, and you don't fire on a reminder of why you fly in the first place." Phoenix 1. Back in the skies, where she belonged. The hangar was heavy with silence after the mission. Mechanics swarmed over the Raptors, sparks flying as panels came off, but among the pilots, words were scarce. Everyone had questions, but no one wanted to be the first to ask. Only one thing was certain: Phoenix's return had shaken the squadron like a thunderclap. Major Daniel, Falcon, Reeves stood outside the debriefing room, helmet in hand, staring through the glass. Inside, Elena, Phoenix, Marquez was sitting across from three generals, her posture straight, her voice calm. They wanted answers: where she'd been, why she'd appeared in restricted airspace, and why Falcon had chosen to disobey direct orders to protect her. Falcon clenched his jaw. He knew the tribunal would go after him next, but that didn't matter. He had made his choice in the sky, and he'd make it again. Dash dash dash. The debriefing dragged on for hours. When Phoenix finally stepped out, she looked tired, but there was still fire in her eyes. Falcon caught her gaze. "Well," he asked. "They don't trust me," she admitted. "But they can't ignore me either. The data I brought in, about the strike force moving across the ocean, they know it's real now." Falcon tilted his head. "So they're letting you back in?" Her lips curved faintly. "Not officially. I'm a ghost in their system. But they'll keep me close enough to use me when it suits them. That's all I need." Dash dash dash. The next days were restless. The squadron trained harder, pushed faster, flew longer. Phoenix remained an outsider in the barracks, but in the sky, she was impossible to ignore. Every maneuver, every radio call reminded them she was something rare, a pilot who didn't just fly to survive, but to lead. Not everyone accepted her. Captain Harris, one of the younger hotshots, confronted her after a drill. "You think you can just drop in and take charge again?" he snapped. "We don't need ghosts dragging us down." Phoenix didn't raise her voice. She simply met his glare. "If my ghost hadn't been in the air last week, you'd be ashes scattered over the Atlantic." The room fell silent. Even Harris had no answer. Dash dash dash. 2 nights later, the alarms wailed. Red lights bathed the base's radar, lit up with inbound hostiles, dozens of them, fast, coordinated, moving straight for the coastline. This wasn't a probe. It was the real strike Phoenix had warned about. Falcon's voice rang out across comms as jets scrambled. "All Raptors airborne. Formation Delta. We intercept before they cross the line." Then another voice broke in, calm and steady. "Phoenix 1, airborne and on your wing." For a moment, the squadron was silent. Then, almost instinctively, they shifted formation to make space for her. Dash dash dash. The battle was a storm of fire and steel. Missiles lit the night sky, flares streaked in every direction, and the ocean below reflected the chaos above. The enemy came hard and fast, pressing into their airspace with brutal efficiency. Falcon's Raptor was nearly cut down when two hostiles boxed him in. Phoenix dove like lightning, her jet screaming past his canopy as she unleashed a perfect missile spread. Both enemy fighters disintegrated in fire. Still flying sloppy, Falcon, she teased over comms, voice tight with adrenaline. Still saving me, he shot back, unable to suppress a grin. But victory wasn't certain. The enemy pressed harder, their numbers overwhelming. Pilots shouted warnings, some jets took hits, and the squadron threatened to break. Phoenix's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Hold your line. We don't break, we don't scatter. You're Raptors, act like it. Her authority steadied them. They regrouped, fought as one, and slowly began turning the tide. By the time the last hostile blip vanished from radar, the squadron was battered, exhausted, but alive. Back on the runway, cheers erupted as the pilots climbed from their jets. For the first time since her return, Phoenix wasn't met with suspicion, she was met with respect. Harris, the same pilot who had challenged her, approached quietly. You saved my life out there, he admitted. Guess, ghosts can still fly. Phoenix gave a faint smile. I'm not a ghost, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere this time. Falcon stepped beside her, looking toward the horizon where the battle had burned hours earlier. They'll come again, you know that. Her eyes hardened with resolve. Then let them. This time, they won't find us unprepared. In the months that followed, her story spread far beyond the base. Not just of a pilot who returned from exile, but of one who had reminded her squadron what loyalty, courage, and unity truly meant. And when new recruits asked about the day two Raptors locked onto a lone jet, Falcon would only smile and say, they didn't lock onto a stranger. They locked onto a legend. And legends don't die easy. Phoenix 1 was back, and the skies would never forget her name.